Hello, everyone. Welcome again. I'm very glad to be here with you today. And in this session, we actually scheduled 4 papers. But as far as I am informed right now, there will be 2 presentations. One will be Muhsin Ali from Malaysia about social security micro-takaful model for gig economy workforce. And this paper will be presented via Zoom. It will be an online presentation. Our second presentation will be made by Ayman Bakır from Turkey towards a model for AI research in Islamic green finance. So the good thing is that we have plenty of time since we have only 2 papers. But just to keep things in order, we'll allocate 15 minutes still. But if you have any questions, we'll be glad to discuss it here. So, by the way, whilst we are still waiting for the Zoom preparation, let me introduce myself. My name is Serkan Çankaya. I'm a professor of finance, banking and finance in Istanbul Ticaret University. And I'm really glad and honored to be here today. And I would like to thank the organizing committee here. I think that's all introductions I have. So, if you're ready to go, how is the situation? Yeah, okay, let's wait a couple of more minutes, so we'll be ready to go.
Do you have foreigner students in your department?
Sure. Of course. Actually, let me give a brief information about the Banking and Finance Department in here, Istanbul Ticaret University. Our structure is we have mostly undergraduate students, as Professor Şensoy told us. We have different students from different regions of the world in the undergraduate level. And also, we have a graduate school of finance, which we are very proud of. It's the only graduate school in Turkey related, especially focused in finance area. So, and it has different concentration areas. Under its roof, it has 3 different PhD programs, 2 being very active right now, one being the financial economics, and the other one is the banking PhD study. And we have also under the master's level programs. One of them, especially international finance program, is one of the CFA affiliated universities in Turkey, and it's one of the 14 affiliated universities. The curriculum is concentrated on the CFA curriculum, and I believe more than 99% of the students in that program are from different regions of the world. So it's a really international program. And about the others, especially we have International Banking and Finance program. It's in Turkish. It gives both thesis and non-thesis degrees, offers both degrees. And also we have a master's program in capital markets. And lately not active, but we also has concentrations in insurance area. But we kind of gave a small pause in the recent years because of the demand issues, let's say. And as I said, we have a very strong academic staff from different concentration areas, a lot of senior professors and also professors from the industry experience as well. So that's what we have in Ticaret.
We have 2 professors here. Professor Serkan Çankaya is heading the department under business faculty.
Yes.
And associate professor Ayben, she was the chairman in the last session.
But I'm very new, and he has worked a lot for the finance for years.
Çankaya handed over management of institute to Ayben. Now Ayben is managing the postgraduate studies, and we are very strong in finance.
Yes.
And thank
Thank you for inviting us. Yeah.
Very strong professors in finance. We have Osman Gürbüz.
Yes.
Here also we have Ersoy,
Hicabi Ersoy.
Jabi Ersoy. They have all experience in business.
Okay, we are ready in Zoom session. Mohsin Ali, do you hear us? Mr. Ali, you can open your video. He's here, but...
You allow me?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we cannot share our video to conference hall. But you can share your video, we can see you.
Actually, you guys have stopped me from sharing. Can you please allow me to share my video, to start my video?
Okay.
Because it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped you. I'm putting it in the chat.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Oturum sahibi yapıyorum.
Even I cannot share the screen as well.
Oturum sahibi yapayım. İzin verin diyor. Wait a minute.
Sure.
Okay, you can try it now.
Okay. No, still it's not allowing me. Yes, share screen, it is allowing me sharing screen, but it is not allowing me to open the video.
Okay. Okay, we can hear you clearly.
Yeah,
May
but
start.
it is, yeah. Okay, because I'm just trying to start the video, but it says you cannot start the video. Okay, anyways. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you guys can see my presentation.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'll start. First of all, thank you very much for arranging this fabulous conference. I really wish that I could be there and present in front of all of you and take your comments directly. But unfortunately, due to some circumstances here, I could not fly on time. So I'm here online presenting my paper. So we are colleagues at Faculty of Business and Law, Taylor's University, Subang Jaya, Selangor, Malaysia. And this particular study is funded by Ministry of Higher Education under the FRGS grant, which is based on, given on a research done on some fundamental topic. So this is a fundamental issue, I think globally, but we are doing this study for Malaysia. So let me start with my introduction. So gig economy is an economy which has been growing, which basically means that you are working for yourself. It is very non-traditional. Of course, it has its perks because you can choose when you want to work and you can choose when you don't want to work. You want to stay, what we call, stay working for longer hours. You want to stay for smaller hours. It is up to you. It involves different type of activities. It can be online, it can be offline. But because it is of a non-traditional nature, it does not also provide different type of protections. Like we as permanent employees or even contract-based employees, we get different type of benefits in terms of protection through insurances, right? But gig workers, they don't get it. So gig workers are mostly freelancers. So they are just paid for the gig they perform, and that's it. And most of them, unfortunately, belong to the lower strata of the economy. And that is why they are not that much aware of the protections they need as well. So their contracts are mostly unstructured, and their perks are also unstructured, and they want an unstructured solution to their problems as well. Right now, the insurances available in the market are very structured, where you have to pay a regular premium for a longer time period. But gig workers required something which is unstructured. So there is a significant gap, which is there in the market, in the insurance and the kafil industry, so which is required to be filled. So here we are proposing, this study actually tries to propose a model which we have not arrived at yet. In this particular presentation, I'll be just providing you with some preliminary findings. And these gig workers, since they are part of economy, so their protection, if they are not doing it by themselves, becomes burden on the government. In 12th Malaysian Plan, government has put extra emphasis on providing facilities to the gig workers and promoting gig work. So our study is in line with the 12th Malaysian Plan as well. Secondly, our study also targets achieving some SDGs, which include elimination of absolute poverty, good health and well-being, access to economy and employment, and right to income equality. So basically, 4 SDGs can be targeted if we provide protection and solution to the protection problems of the gig workers. Generally, when it comes to gig work, the first thing comes in our mind are delivery workers, right? The Uber drivers, like Kareem drivers. I don't know what service they use in Turkey. I think Uber must be there as well. These things, delivery services, Food Panda, and all these type of services come in our mind. But it is quite broad. One definition of it is that contingent work that is performed on an online marketplace. So if there is something which is done online marketplace, that is gig work. But more comprehensive definition is provided by US Employment Department. They say that it is a digital matching service which generally have following characteristics. What are these characteristics? These are facilitating peer-to-peer in transactions using online platforms or mobile applications, utilize user-based rating systems, offer workers flexibility in determining their hours, and placing responsibility on workers to provide whatever tools or assets are necessary to accomplish their work. So few important things which are mentioned here. First, they will use an online system, whether they are providing a physical service or an online service. Number one. Number two, the market mechanism, the information asymmetry is managed by user-based rating system. Number three, there is flexibility of working hours. And number four, whatever tools and assets required to accomplish the work, they need a laptop, they need a motorbike, they need a car, they have to have these assets. After 2008 and 2009 crisis, when people lost their jobs, gig work was on rise. But during COVID, with restrictions on movement, gig work increased tremendously, which showed how important is this type of work, especially in the younger lot, which are treating it as a full-time career, which makes our problem even bigger. So what type of protections they need? Generally, the only thing comes on our mind is, if they meet an accident, so they might need health and life insurance. But within health, it is quite broad. The studies have found people who are doing gig work, staying at home, not going out, they are basically having psychological issues as well. So they need very different type of insurances because they are not going out. They are having different working habits, working late at nights during different hours. They don't only need different life insurances, but also health insurances as well. Then another important problem which is there with gig workers and not with the full-time workers in unemployment insurance problem. What is unemployment? Because this type of gig work is based on day-to-day gigs they get, or maximum they can get a monthly gig, but they might get unemployed very soon because of different reasons. Okay, their asset is not well, or their car is not good, their bike is not good, laptop is not working, whatever it could be. So they need an insurance which is unemployment insurance. Then because of unemployment they lose income, they need income replacement insurance as well. So for that, they need to have a minimum wage protection, and there is requirement of a product in the market which can provide them with the minimum wage protection as well. Gig workers are usually exposed to more risks as compared to traditional workers because of the nature of their work. They are sitting at home, not going out. This is one type. They are driving a lot. This is second. They are delivering. They're meeting different people. They are delivering in different environments. That is another problem. So the gig work cannot be neatly linked to the commercial or personal insurances provided currently in the market. So that is why there is a need of an unstructured product in the market which can help meeting the requirements of the gig workers. As far as Malaysian context is concerned, government acknowledges this problem, and for that they basically, just to give you a background, they have divided the society, the economy, into three groups. One is bottom 40, B40, then middle 40, M40, and then the top 20, which is T20. So T20 are really good. They don't need any sort of protection from the government, but bottom 40 are the most deserving ones. So for them, there is a PICA B40 healthcare protection scheme, but that again is a very structured one and not specifically targeting the needs of the gig workers. M40, they have just recently included M40 into the PICA healthcare system, but the coverage is half of the B40. SOXO is another institution in Malaysia which provides coverages to the employees, but it is voluntary for the gig workers. So most of them, since are unaware about their protection requirements, do not go for it. So the insurance penetration in Malaysia is 45% as compared to targeted 75%. These are the figures from 2020. So the questions which we try to address in this particular study are following. How are the risks faced by gig economy workforce different from traditional employees? Why the unique risks being faced by the gig economy workforce are not covered by the mainstream public and private takaful providers? And how to enhance awareness and financial capability of gig economy workforce. How to construct an effective social security micro-takaful model for gig economy workforce. So here I will just provide you with the preliminary analysis which we could have done by now. We still have to do a full-scale survey. We are halfway through. I'll discuss with you some of the basic results which we got, and we also have to do a focus group discussion, which will help us, finalizing over a micro-takaful model. So the literature review on this particular topic is very limited, mostly focused on US and Europe and countries within Europe. So the scope is mostly limited to the delivery services or the cab services like Uber. So only 49% of the drivers have sponsored health insurance even in Uber, which is quite structured as compared to the other counterparts. As far as Tran and SOCAS is concerned, they suggested there is no compensation given to them, and a number of health and safety hazards are there, especially for the younger ones who, especially who have just got out of the universities, never felt the, proper traditional environment, and they are in the market and they don't know how to take care of their protection. So they are exposed to these type of risk and they are not getting any compensation for this. So the demand for microinsurance is linked to vulnerability, elimination of risk elimination, and strategies risk management employed by low-income households. So for the methodology, we have conducted survey based on questionnaires. So we have up to now have 100 questionnaires filled, and based on that, we will provide our preliminary results. We have to apply a MOS SEM model for this, and we'll be conducting a focus group discussion. This is basically our model. As per the theory, the protection is basically only bought when there is a financial capacity that the people are willing to pay for the protection which they can get from insurance and takaful or companies. When there is some awareness and there is some loss exposure, which they understand what they are going to, they are being exposed to, what type of losses are there. And so awareness and loss exposure are quite linked, but the loss exposure itself has to be of a substantial nature for them to realize the amount of significance of the loss exposure so that they can go and buy protection from the takaful companies. So basically, this is basic our correlation results. We'll just provide you some results here. So we have found that this is one of the earlier studies, and we found that there is a very high demand. of this, and there is low penetration and understanding. So if we look at the penetration, it has been very, very low. So if we look at the correlations, they are very low now, and understanding of people is also very, very low. So that is why we feel like there is a lot of demand. People are saying that they are looking for a product, but they are only worried that they would be they would end up buying something which they cannot pay. For that, they need something which is of unstructured nature, which is market is not providing. For that, we will recommend a public-private partnership, the model coming from a private the company provider, but we would need government support in providing this type of solution. And lastly, the significance of this study would be that it would help achieving sustainable development goals, and it would help solving a big problem which is there in it's a global problem, but in Malaysia's context where the insurance penetration is already low, it could be of a lot of help. That's it from my side. Thank you very much. I welcome any questions.
We would like to thank Muhsin Ali for his presentation. I believe it's a...
Any questions?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me, Muhsin? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was just... I just have actually a question. Not a question, actually, but I realized that when you're presenting your results, you skip the preliminary results, especially the correlation table, a little bit quick. Is it possible for us to see it again? Can we go back to...
Sure. Actually, I thought I am running out of time. That's why I skipped.
It's okay.
I'll share.
The good thing about this session is that some of our guests could not be here today, so we have enough time. No problem in terms of time. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to see it again. Maybe the audience would like to see it so that we can... Sure. Can you just, when we are just looking at it, can you tell us a little bit more detail about your results? Were there something that you would like to underline?
Basically, what we have done right now is the basic qualitative sort of descriptive analysis, and where we found that affordability and need of protection has a correlation. And what we say, financial capacity and need for protection also has a correlation. And we see loss exposure. And so this shows that the protection is directly proportional to all of these. So all over these three hypotheses are basically, met, which is that, they can, their financial capacity, their affordability in terms of, whether they can, significantly, on regular basis, can they, take up this protection, and then how much are they exposed and how much they know they are exposed to the losses. And this is found to be of highest correlation in terms of a need for protection. Those people who are aware of their exposure and who have higher what you call higher exposure towards different risks, they are deemed to be more in need for protection, and they are looking for some products which can provide them this type of protection. And as this loss exposure increases, we see that the affordability of the product also increases. They are willing to afford this particular product. So the affordability seems to be of directly proportion. So those who can afford can have the higher exposure as well. So this is basically, from our correlation. And based on that, we have come up with this, that there is a higher demand based on whatever, survey we have conducted. Currently, there is low penetration and low level of understanding, but it shows that there is, if the understanding is improved, the demand will improve even further. And there is more need of certain, these type of products in the market.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ali. Just a small maybe recommendation, maybe you could consider for your future studies. I believe it would be interesting to hear something about the financial literacy levels of these participants.
Yes, sir. We have covered that part as well. But for financial literacy, actually, that we are covering, there are two aspects of loss exposure. Here, I have not presented that thing. In loss exposure, there is one aspect of literacy, and the other one is the total exposure. So basically, there are two ways we have measured this. And financial literacy, if you see, our main model is an important. This awareness represents the financial literacy part, but that part is not analyzed as yet. For this study, we are just showing you results for loss exposure and financial capacity. But awareness is definitely part of this. But here we have not analyzed it. Here we have analyzed it under loss exposure because we are treating it two ways. One is knowledge of the exposure. Second is how much is the total exposure.
Okay, actually, what you have already told us about the awareness part made me think about financial literacy. So it makes sense. Okay. Let me turn back to our audience here. Do we have any questions for Ali here? Any comments, any contributions that you would like to, if you have any recommendations for his work, his research? Yeah, please. Professor Arif, I think, has a comment.
You may speak from here.
Hello, Mohsin. Good to see you again. I want to make some comment on your paper, which I did not do when you presented it last week.
Yes, Prof. I think it's Prof. Arif.
Yeah, this Prof. Arif, yeah.
Oh, okay, Prof. I'll make notes. Sure, please.
Yeah. Now, there is this Institute for Capital Market Research. You are aware of it. It's part of the Security Commission. I'm a board member there. So recently, they have completed a very large-scale study exactly on this topic, not so much targeted for the gig economy, but they have data on the gig economy side as well. There is a guy, his name is Gopinathan, Dr. Gopinathan. If you send me an email, I will ask him to share some information. They got a huge database. The reason I'm mentioning is that your data is so small, n is equal to 93, and it's a convenient sample. So I don't think any journal will pick it up and consider it as a major findings. It's simply a kind of exploratory study. If you're aiming for a good journal, it's no go. So I think you can get this data from Gopinathan because this institute encourages any kind of research in capital market. So this is capital market plus, capital market players, actually more like resources in a part of the gig economy. So if you're agreeable to that, I will send you send me an email, I will put you in touch. Maybe it will help you to have an access to a larger database. You can do a more meaningful. And finally, there's also a lady whose PhD I was chairing. She's working in Monash, Malaysia, also in Kuala Lumpur. She's doing a lot of work exactly in this area. She has also built a large data set. So maybe you should aim to another paper, not this paper, where you can get a bit more intensive data and publish a better quality paper. That's what my comment is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Just to, I'll be more than happy to, Prof, get any resources which can provide me additional data. It would not only strengthen my study, but also help me see, because different proxies can help you get different type of, indicators, and it will tell me about the robustness of my study as well. Actually, right now, Prof, we are targeting around 500 questionnaires by the end of this year, hopefully, and we'll be able to hopefully be able to collect that, and that would be basically the final will be the final draft. But I'll be grateful if you could I'll send you an email, and I'll be grateful if you could help me connect with Dr. Gopinath and the other student you were mentioning, and I'll definitely see where I can get help from them and how can I improve the paper. Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay, I would like to thank Professor Arif for his valuable comments and also thank Mohsin Ali for his presentation. If we don't have any further questions, I would like to move on to our next presenter.
Okay. Mr. Ali, you can stay with Zoom session. We will continue with next presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so
you can, yes.
Let me introduce Mr. Ayman Bakır. He's attending from Turkey. As I mentioned before, while he's getting ready, let me repeat the title of his paper, Towards a Model for AI Research in Islamic Green Finance. So, yes, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. In this presentation, we are talking about towards getting a model for AI research in Islamic green finance. This paper is authored by myself and co-authored by Professor Mustafa Omar Muhammad and Professor Sharif. So just to start, I would like to the contents, of course, as usual, we'll have to speak a little bit about the overview of Islamic green finance by itself, artificial intelligence. Then we'll head to the research objectives and methodology, and then we talked about our conclusion and the way forward. Okay, so to speak about the green finance, usually what comes into mind is something related to environment, and this is basically what green finance is looking forward to. And if we look at the UNEP definition for green finance, we'll see that they talk about increasing the financial flows from public, private, and not-for-profit sectors and sustainable development priorities, although they do not define what are sustainable development priorities, but we see in other areas that the key parts for this, some of the key parts would be better management of the environment and social risks. Apologies, but I was seeing that things are a bit vague, so I thought that my eyes are vague. I forgot the eyeglasses. Okay, so we're talking about better management and environmental social risks. So if we look at almost all the researchers and practitioners who dealt with green finance, we'll see that they have missed the opportunity to stress the importance of environmental protection and sustainability. The International Finance Corporation talks about the International Finance Corporation talks about the investment is so great in terms of the climate investments, and for the climate investments they say that this is in excess of $23 trillion, over 62% of the world's population. And in the Bloomberg 2019 report, they report that green finance was in excess of $30 trillion US dollars, which makes it a huge potential for people to work at. Now, if you look at the United Nations development goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, the set date and target date is in 2030. And we see that already the Secretary General of the United Nations has raised a flag saying that with the current methodologies, tools, and techniques, they are going to miss the targets in 2030. So this is becoming a stressing issue, and therefore, before I talk about Islamic green finance, therefore they are seeking ways of achieving those targets by utilizing technology, and at the forefront of this technology is artificial technology. But before I continue with artificial intelligence, I'll just go back and talk about Islamic green finance. Now, as we see that since we have green finance, and the interest in green finance has grown in the previous years, We see also the Islamic financial institutions and researchers, they have also an increased interest in green finance too, and therefore they have, let's say, between quotes, another version of green finance, and they call it Islamic green finance, although the word Islamic is not necessary, I mean, in these cases. But anyways, if we just go into our religion and see how is it really associated with green finance, we do see a cardinal principle enunciated in the Quran, and most of the researchers, they quote that cardinal principle, which is prohibition of corruption in earth. And there are various Quranic verses in Quran, like in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَا تَعْثَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ مُفْسِدِينَ. So these verses are a lot in Surah Al-Baqarah, in Surah Al-Rum, Surah Al-A'raf. We see it in many surahs. There are many verses about that. Nonetheless, corruption in earth is so wide, it has a big umbrella, and it encompasses more than saying protection of environment. It encompasses many things. So do we have really some real direct explicit pointers to the protection of environment? Yes, we do, and we have a lot in a plethora of them in Islam. And if we look at it, we see that Islam has actually rewards, prohibitions, and warnings to the people. For example, in a hadith, we see reviving a barren land. Then if you revive a barren land, you own that land. That's a reward. And if you plant a tree or sow a seed, Prophet ﷺ says, if you plant a tree or sow a seed from which mankind and birds and beasts will eat from, then you will have it as a charity. So you'll be rewarded for the charity. So that's again a reward. For the prohibition, we see that the Prophet ﷺ prohibited, for example, urinating in standing land. And also talking about the warnings and punishment, Prophet ﷺ also warned from cutting low trees, and for those who does so, they will have their heads lowered in hell. So Islam has a plethora of things that really point to Islamic green finance, although the coinage of green finance has not come except after the 2000s. Okay, so for the artificial intelligence, although we don't have any universally accepted definition for artificial intelligence, but if you come to anyone and ask them what is artificial intelligence, they have a kind of idea what artificial intelligence nowadays is. We can think of it as software systems that can operate in intentional, intelligent, and adaptive manner. Okay, so this is what artificial intelligence, of course, that is capable of imitating and making decisions like what humans would do. The finance industry is flooded with AI applications. We can see that a lot. So, for example, we can see machine learning used by hedge funds to build large statistical models. We find also machine learning is also utilized to detect fraudulent transactions. We see also deep learning used as part of trading and investment platforms. We see robo-advisors. We see many applications in artificial intelligence, using artificial intelligence in finance. So what is our research problem here? The research problem is, despite the huge list of these applications in the finance industry, a thorough review of the literature reveals that there are only few preliminary attempts to leverage the artificial intelligence for facilitating green finance. This is on the one hand. Conversely, there are negligible studies exploring artificial intelligence in the context of the Islamic green finance, and the massive potential of the AI do promise to develop Islamic green finance, but it's conspicuously being missed out. So the objectives, just to set the expectations in this research, is not to immediately direct that research, but because we don't have preliminary research about it, we wanted at the beginning to explore things, and so our objectives is to investigate the role of AI in Islamic green finance, and then examine the challenges and issues in researching AI in the context of Islamic green finance, and third, to develop, again, a preliminary model, a simple one, that will help address the challenges and guide the research in the topic, and maybe also guide the research to a better model in the future, inshallah. So the literature can be divided into actually three broad categories. the first category that we can see are the involved studies that focused on green finance in mainstream and Islamic both. So we have many literature talking about both in general. We have some literature that the second category consisted of research papers that discussed applications of artificial intelligence in finance, and they had suggestions to improve it. But that's only in mainstream, mostly in mainstream finance. Very, very rare you can find anything about Islamic finance. And the third category involved a shy contribution related to the use of AI in green finance. So what we can see is that the artificial intelligence research is directed most in literature to finance, but not green finance. And less also that Islamic green finance. So the fact that all the studies from these three categories were handling the subject in bits and prices and pieces rather than connecting the concepts together makes us, go to our research methodology. So our research methodology involved a library research. So we are doing a library research in the literature and looking at what has been adopted from the reviews. So our library research purpose is to look at 3 points. The extent to which the literature is deficient. Of course, we know it's deficient, but we want to see how much it is deficient. So just to confirm our initial intuition about it. Then the extent to which the application of AI in Islamic green finance has not received that due attention, and the extent to which multidisciplinary collaboration between tech-savvy individuals and Islamic green finance experts remain untapped by the people. Okay, so our conclusions is that from this library research, we find 4 main gaps. The first gap confirms our idea of the deficiency in the research on Islamic green finance and artificial intelligence. And of course, we have this arena, we have it open to a plethora or ample research, but we don't know what is the starting point, how to start, and what are the preferences of a topic, what is the most important, what are the key things that we need to look at. Gap 2 is while research in green sukuk. So we find a lot of research in green finance, Islamic green finance, but mainly tended or inclined towards green sukuk. So while it is very encouraged, yes it is, we still need research in other areas within Islamic green finance, not only green sukuk. Gap 3, we find areas of application of artificial intelligence not being identified in Islamic green finance. And gap 4, multidisciplinary collaboration between tech-savvy individuals and Islamic green finance has not been tapped. So this leads us to look at the way forward. So we made a very basic model just from these gaps. That model can be, of course, enhanced, improved into a thematic framework once we do a qualitative research in the future, inshallah. And we do advise researchers to go and do a qualitative research, but they can follow this model, which will help them, go on a very more rigorous research for getting a thematic framework or model. So our main simple model here says, okay, let's look at the mainstream research. Let's look at what they have. Let's look at the insights they got from the AI research on mainstream finance. And this will feed into our research method for AI in Islamic green finance. And at the same time, we identify all the stakeholders. And of course, this needs a stakeholder analysis. We did a very preliminary one, and so we can name a few of them: Islamic finance institutions, Islamic fintech companies, governments, central banks, private investors. All of these can be involved into the stakeholders that we can have research with them. This will also feed alongside with the insights from the mainstream finance. We have researchers to do interviewing and surveying for these Islamic green finance experts with the tech-savvy people in collaboration with them. We can make working groups, focus groups, all these kind of techniques can be used in the research method. Of course, now the output of it would be direct and indirect influence to the Islamic green finance research outcomes. I guess this is for it, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them. Thank you.
I would like to thank Mr. Ayman Bakır for his presentation. And it's definitely a very quite striking topic. And there, of course, as he mentioned, this preliminary study yet, but there are a lot of challenges so far as I heard. There are three main sides of his story, as he mentioned: the AI research part, the Islamic part, and the green finance part. So it's very difficult to get together these three huge areas. So even though it's challenging, I strongly encourage him to continue with his study. But I'm not an expert in the AI field, especially, but so I don't want to comment on that, unfortunately. But maybe on the green finance part, I'm just thinking out loud. So let's discuss it together. As you mentioned, this study could be designed in two dimensions. One being the questionnaires, the surveys, with the related stakeholders, the parties, especially on the maybe to measure the Islamic finance part. Otherwise, it would be very difficult by using secondary data. But on the green finance part, there are, I don't know the design exactly yet, but there are some data sources like the Refinitiv and Bloomberg, especially the E dimension, you know, the ESG, environment, social governance data, especially the E dimension includes a lot of valuable data I believe could be beneficial in your research. You can use on the sustainability issue the general ESG scores, and in addition to that, especially if we are going to focus on the green part, the environmental dimension, the E dimension data could be quite beneficial, I believe. So my point here is that there could be two dimensions of the study. That's what I meant. The ESG data from Refinitiv or Bloomberg, and you could integrate this data with a certain model with the questionnaire you have done in your in-field study. So a combination of these two, I believe, would produce a valuable insight to the academia and to the market participants in this area. Thank you. I would like to turn to the audience, please, if you have any recommendations, especially because Professor Arif, do you have anything to add? Yeah, let's start with the audience. Do you have any recommendations, maybe questions at this stage? For questions, it's a little bit early, I think, but recommendations would be useful. Okay, Professor Arif.
You may speak here for one.
Please, by the way, if you could come up with something after Professor Arif, we would be glad to hear your comments as well.
Yeah, we have plenty of time, so let me give a go. I just want to give a context because after this conference was over, that's last week and this week, like in all other 12 conferences, 11 more, we publish a book on the theme of the conference. So the theme of this conference is green finance. But the topic green finance is still not fully defined. So I'm going to do that. We have plenty of time. Sure. Maybe you can give me about 5 minutes.
Sure, the floor is yours.
Now, this topic of what we call finance is very perplexing, right? Different people give a different idea. For me, it's very simple. If you look at the famous output equation, going back to 1922, it says output is equal to consumption plus savings plus government, the money the government takes from you, plus export minus import. If you set it to 0, export minus index, and then you transform the equation, it gives you the central point of finance, which is savings is equal to investment. What's the total savings in the world? Credit Suisse has got an institute. I quote it in my book, Islamic Wealth Management, in chapter 1. There's 220 trillion cumulated savings in the world. That's producing the wealth we call GDP. So that money, the capital, is what going around the world. 80% of it belongs to the top 10 countries in the world. Okay? So this is about saving to investment equilibrium. Who are the people who want the money? Producers. So the word consumption must be part of what you produce. So production economics is basically roughly about 75% of economic activities. Then the savings is another part, trade is another part. So having positioned that, then his paper is about one small aspect of financing. The bigger picture of financing is what we call funds management. The first funds management was started by a Jewish financier in Amsterdam, soon after the tulip mania. The tulip mania was a great financial crisis of that world, 1636. Every family lost their savings. It was a scam, just like the 2008, 2009 great financial crisis. The scheme was, you buy this instrument, you can continue to get a lot of returns over and above what you can get in normal investment. And that was designed by J.P. Morgan in 1996, but the crisis was 2006. You read my book on global financial crisis, failure of regulation, we document the sequence, 2006. So the fund management started with one company 300 over years ago. And it was lying dormant. That was an answer to the tulip crisis. Every family has lots of money. This guy devised a fund, which is, we call it kosher, halal. So a lot of people put the money, but it was only one company. It took another 200 years before the American adopted it in 1914. Today, the fund management, which is what he's talking about, $34 trillion. Fund management. There are about 13,000 companies that are managing this fund. Now, what is green finance? We can answer it. Green finance is sources of finance, demand for finance, both. People want to put the money in what they think is good for the ESG. That has to be designed. Here's the question you asked. The chair was asking, what is green finance? I have seen so many papers in this conference. We are going to write a book on that. All these papers will be rewritten. I'm going to invite the author to rewrite this paper. So green finance has to be defined in the context of fund management. And Bloomberg says it has a potential for 30 trillion. It took 100 over years to grow into a 34 trillion mutual fund business. And Bloomberg basically is making a very false prediction. I don't think it will be 30 trillion. I mean, human beings are not, especially in capital market, motivated by a moral sense of what Adam Smith called. Adam Smith wrote 2 books, Wealth of Nation, other book, Theory of Moral Sentiment. If you read the Theory of Moral Sentiment, that's what he's talking about. Economy cannot function if you have no moral sentiment in your financial transaction. And nobody tells us about Adam Smith, telling us that moral sentiment. They've forgotten. The Christian world has forgotten. They only talk about how to increase the wealth of the nation. We Asian leaders also copy the West, not knowing that the moral sentiment is what is sustainability. The verses he quoted. So you could define what is green finance. On the supply side, investors, people who have money, they want to put it in what is called ESG consistent investment. That is the supply side. On the demand side, businesses are now saying, last week Indonesia raised, I think, 23 billion green finance. Very big issue. And they want the money to be used for infrastructure projects, plus green finance in many other areas. So I think the topic of green finance is, again, you got to root it back to the demand and supply equation of finance. And then from there you explain that you want to now look at the literature, what has been done, what has not been done. That's legitimate. There's also an Emerald database which is available. I can put you in touch. They have all of the literature in the world. You don't have to do library research. They have all the resources. What article, what it says, when was it published. You can get it free. You know, one or two people researching for the literature in the library, you can spend a year to do that. You can do it in 1 month. Okay, I would suggest that you expand that. I will put you in touch with the guy who is running this huge database.
Can I comment a bit?
Just 1 minute. After that, you can comment. The next thing I want to mention is the artificial intelligence is, repetitive task can be programmed to be done by artificial intelligence. That's a different topic, as the chairman himself said. I don't think the two are connected together, two separate topics. So in summary then, I would suggest let's focus from a historical point of view and a theoretical point of view what green finance is, and then look at what green finance characteristics are, which you actually did. Separate the artificial intelligence part out of it, make use of the Emerald database, which can be a lot more productive. That's all I want to comment. And I would invite you to submit that paper. We will have about 12 chapters. We are trying to publish by Routledge. Agreement is not signed yet. If your paper is accepted as a chapter, we will publish it eventually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Arif.
Sure.
If you have any questions, comments, I think.
Yeah, just my comment about the library research. The word library maybe was a bit misleading, but it's not really as in physical going to the library and getting the research. The library research means full using electronic research. Yeah, so I used databases to get these papers. But library research in the sense of, in a small period of time, you're being so constrained by time, that's the much or the quantity that I got from that research, which I know that I can get even more, inshallah, in the future. Yeah.
Thank you. After Professor Arif's valuable comments, I think I agree with his comments as well, because as I tried to mention at the beginning, there are three huge pillars in this research, and it's rather difficult to put them together just once and just in a single research. Another way could be to, you don't have to put everything inside just once. So as Professor Arif suggested, let's try with the green and Islamic part first, try to get them together maybe, and after that you could integrate the AI part in a following research or in a further research maybe. We are just thinking out loud, so personally I would try such a methodology. Okay, after all these comments, do you guys have anything to ask or comment on it? I think not. All right. I would like to thank both of our presenters for their valuable work. I wish them good luck in their research. They're both interesting topics, so good luck. Thank you for your participation as well. See you in the next session.
We would like to give him a certificate. And Mr. Ali, we will send you by email your certificate. Hocam size de teşekkür sertifikası.
Sertifikası Serkan Hoca, thank you for your, thank you.
It's a pleasure for me.
We will give together with Professor Arif. Okay, you come also. Ayman.
Thank you very much.
Dear guests, our program has ended here. Thank you very much.
I wish to thank the Istanbul Commerce University team. Therefore, I invite all the team from Corporate Communication Department, Ayşe, Nur, Büşra, please come to the stage. Hayrun Nisa, Kübra, and all the students helping us. Rimon, Emir, come to the stage. I wish to applaud you. You did a great job today. Thank you. Come to the stage. We will take a photo together. Come. Let's take a photo.
Make this conference possible. Another applause, please. Thank you.